In the name of the Creator, Redeemer, and Sanctifier. Please be seated. I don't know about you, but 4 o'clock is my witching hour. It's the hour where if I am having a particularly hard day or if I've just been doing chores all day long, I find myself, if I'm at home, in front of the refrigerator. I open the refrigerator and there are glorious foods. Some from my garden, some from the grocery store, all sorts of foods. And I don't want any of it. It's in those moments where I will most often end up with a bowl of ice cream, which is no good for anyone, right? Anyone else have those moments where you're standing in front of the fridge and you think you're hungry, but maybe you're not hungry. Maybe it's something else. 4 o'clock's my witching hour because it is the point of the day where I have the lowest energy, for me. My husband has that same shared trait, so we both encounter each other in front of the fridge around 4 o'clock, which does not help the ice cream, us not doing or having more ice cream. It just doesn't help. And I think what we have going on here is this moment of me seeking something more than food. Whatever that is, I want something more in my body than just the food. And that's what's happening with the crowds here, right? Like that's what's happening with Jesus, is saying there's so much more than food. Now, if you remember last week, there were a crowd of people and they were all surrounding Jesus and they didn't have enough bread, but miraculously everyone was fed. Everyone was fed. And immediately after everyone was fed, they were like, we want more of that. Can we make you a king? They say to him pretty much. And he, in response, is like, no way. And he takes off onto the other side. And at the very end of yet last week's gospel, he walks on water. There's this miracle. This crowd wakes up in the morning and they find that Jesus is gone. So they commandeer boats to chase after Jesus. Pretty, think about this. And so here they are, and they show up, and they're like, how did you get here? Expecting Jesus to talk about the miraculous things that he does. Instead, Jesus reminds them that they're not focused on what Jesus is about. That Jesus, in that sense, is never going to be enough for them. They're seeking food, like I'm standing in front of the fridge, when they need something more and deeper. We tend to confuse that, what our spiritual nourishment and our body nourishment needs. Because it shows up, that spiritual nourishment, when we really need it, I don't know about you, but it shows up in the pit of my stomach and looks and feels a lot like anxiety. Maybe it is anxiety. I don't know. But I think anxiety is a part of our cultural phenomenon because we're seeking things and not sure how to fill it. Not sure how to relax the worry. Not sure how to get it all done. Not sure how I'm going to get the next thing. Whatever it is. They did a poll about anxiety, and the question is, do you feel more anxious than you did last year? So I'm going to ask that question to our community. Do you feel more anxious now than you did last year? Yes. I'm hearing yes. Anyone brave enough to raise their hand? A few of you, right? Well, they've asked this question over the years, and in 2020, it went up 25%. Not surprising. Thinking about 2019 and 2020, do you feel more anxious than you did last year? I'm stuck at home. Yes, I do. But that number hasn't dissipated. As a matter of fact, it's steadily risen since 2020. In 2023, 37% said they were more anxious in 2023 than they were in 2022. And in this year, it's 43%. Now, all of these I know are good reason. And maybe even physical reasons, right? But I also think that there's a real spiritual reason here too that's happening in our culture. Here we are in the land of the center of the breadbasket of the nation. Truthfully, most of us have everything we need, at least here in this community right here, talking right now, can connect to everything we need, just like that. It isn't true for everybody, but it is true for most of us here, right in this community. And yet, we all end up at the fridge at 4 o'clock. I think that this is a sign of what we might consider not a food desert, but maybe a spiritual desert. 25 years ago, there was this incredible book called Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. Do you know this book? This book talked about how over the years, things like bowling leagues and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and all these things that connect us as community were disappearing from our culture. How many of you are part of a bowling league, right? How many can say that their parents or grandparents were part of a bowling league? My grandmother was. That this decline of these connections and these communities are leading to social isolation, the desire and the want for more consumerism, and the fact that our busyness prevents us from being a part of it. All of these things are connected. So he, 25 years ago, started talking about these things that we feel very closely connected to. The sign of spiritual desert. And so I ask you right now, when you're thinking about, this is the Bread of Life weeks. We have 5 weeks where we're talking about Bread of Life. When you're thinking about seeking nourishment here, or with God, and with God, what is it that you seek? To really be clear about what is it that you seek so that you know what to grab when you open the fridge. I believe we are really, really lucky. This community is many things. It's not all, and we have a lot to learn and grow. But let me tell you about last Thursday. I'll get a wind. Let me tell you about last Thursday. Last Thursday, after the noonday service, we have a meeting that's monthly, and it's the pastoral care team. And this is the group of people who come together. They're the ones who pray, send cards, make sure that people have meals. They're also ones that go and visit people while they are away or in the hospital. We meet every single month, and we look at our prayer list. If you look on the back of our bulletin, we have a prayer list that's quite extensive. But we also look at names that are maybe not on that list, but are on our hearts and minds. And we go through every single name, every week, thinking about how we might lift them up in prayer and within our own community. So that when one person ends up in the hospital, a whole community of people are willing to offer food. So that when someone says, I just need a prayer for my cousin, Mike, for whatever reason, there's a whole community of people beginning to pray. To surround each other with this community and this love and the focus of God being the center of it all. We are a rare thing in our world. There's less and less of centers and communities or bowling leagues that are devoted to the nourishment of communities. devoted to the spiritual care, devoted to making sure that we have a time and space to reflect on what we might need in our hearts and minds and our bodies. This is our gift. This is our gift to our larger community. And I can't help but wonder why you're here. And why aren't there more people? I know that many of you are here for all these reasons that I talk to you about. I know through the one-on-one connections of every single one of you that you all have your own individual reasons of being here, connecting to God, eating the bread of life, being the community that God is asking us to do. I just can't help but wonder, why aren't there more? Why aren't people knocking down our doors to be part of this community that devotes itself to the larger world and larger life? I think it's connecting again with remembering why we're here and what we're getting and sharing it with the world. In this community where isolation and consumerism and the busyness of life has overwhelmed our populace, we offer some healing balm because we're a community that focuses on God and that love. Connect with it. Share it with the world. Maybe we'll all end up here at 4 o'clock on a hard day. Amen.